Well, to introduce myself, my name is Miku Lenentine. So hello, welcome Miku. Yes, thank you. And I want to say thank you to Chiokaten for his amazing words and his incredible opening for this event this evening, and for bringing all of us here together. Thank you. There'll be many thank yous and much gratitude here. I also want to say thank you to Jess, where she is, for coordinating and putting all this together, for all of the artists, for all the volunteers, for all of the people that made this happen. So thank you. And then before I go too much farther, I would like to offer some gratitude for the people who came before me. So I want to offer gratitude to share with you that I'm here, sitting here today because of the people who came before me and who are still here. I want to offer some gratitude for all of my elders and all of my teachers. Gratitude for Grandmother Karina Sainan in Vancouver Island. So much of what I'm sharing today is things that I've learned and integrated from working with her. Gratitude for my Auntie Hazel in Southern Oregon. And also, of course, gratitude for my brother Chiokaten for all of his inspiration and amazing work. So, yes, coming to you with humility and coming to you as someone who's so much still learning, so much still learning. Yeah. And I think that Chiokaten did a really beautiful job already offering gratitude for the land and for the first people of this land. But just to offer my own as well, wanted to offer gratitude for the Duwamish people and also gratitude for the first people everywhere in the world, the first people to come into relationship with all beings, to come into a space of knowingness, the first ones for that place. And to offer gratitude and thanks for those ancestors and those that are here today still holding that in their genomics, in their body, that knowingness. So thank you to them. And I also wanted to take a second to invite in connecting to some of the different elements in land. We have some beautiful beings here hanging out with me up on stage, some fitting representatives. One of them, of which I'm told is already an elder sitting right here. This cactus is belonging to a great-grandmother plant. I want to invite in the medicine from the mountains of Monteverde, Costa Rica. The cloud rainforest there. I was just on a call this morning, connecting with my family there. I want to invite in the mountains in Alaska. When you stand up on the peak and you breathe in the fresh air, and that air has just crossed over glaciers, and you breathe it into your lungs, and it's so fresh and so pure and so clean. I want to invite in maybe some of these beings to hang out on these extra cushions up here. And then also to share and invite this memory that I have as a child, walking the rivers. I grew up fishing, and so I had an amazing experience walking through a river, and well, actually at the peak of it, at the bank of it, finding this river to be completely full of rainbow trout. And I'll never forget the experience. It was so full that you could actually walk across it. I really thought about trying. And these rainbow trout, they were just completely shimmering, so beautiful. And so this is a memory that I offer to you of how abundant and amazing and awe-inspiring nature and these kin, and these spirit brothers and sisters can be. And then also offer the sadness and the grief that we have, this work that we have to do in realizing that we're losing these spaces, that we're losing this wildness, and that's part of our work, is to do the grief work too. And then remember and share these memories. For those that have this experience, share that, keep that wildness, and then share it with others. So I wanted to invite in these beings also here, and these memories, and this memory for you. And to tell you a little bit about myself, see if I can adjust this so I'm not hunched over. over. I'm the daughter of Kim Borgata and the granddaughter of Maria Borgata and the great-granddaughter of Francesca Zanelli Manganelli and the great-great-granddaughter of Francesca Lucio Ruiz. And my ancestors, the bones of my ancestors are buried, some of them with the first people of Sinaloa, Mexico, some of them in northern and southern Italy, and also on my father's side, some of them with the Gaelic people in Dublin, Ireland. And so just also inviting them in and giving thanks for them as well. So today, we are gathered at a really special time of year. We are at the tail end of what some people call Lammas, moving into the Equinox coming up this next weekend. So Lammas is a time that's been celebrated by people for thousands and thousands of years. This is a name coming more from the Celtic traditions. Lammas is the cross-quarter day, which means if we have our solstices and equinoxes on the wheel of time, the cross-quarter days are directly in the middle of them. And what happens on the cross-quarter days is it's the time when we're able to notice the seasons moving. It's the time when the rate of change is highest. So the rate of change is highest. And we're just coming out of that right now. Lammas is the season, the time of harvest, the time of celebration. And so we've just passed kind of the first season of harvest and celebration, now moving into the second Mabon or fall equinox, the time when the day and the night hours are the same. So harvest time is a really beautiful time. It's a time of celebration, a time of gathering. It's a time of celebrating life and also a time of celebrating death. So as we receive life, we're also allowing for life to give itself to us. So just as we celebrate life on this time, we're also celebrating death. Harvest time is a time where people have maybe completed gathering their berries. They're bringing in their bundles. They're bringing in all of the goods from all of the year. For us, if we're out in the land, that's what we're doing. But also maybe here at your own home life. Maybe it's big projects that you finished. People are going back to school. This is a time of gathering, a time of coming together. It's a very social time, and so it's very fitting to give a talk on social permaculture and climate change, which is the theme of my talk. Quick read on the room. How many people have heard of permaculture? Okay, that's great. How many people have heard of social permaculture? Okay, not quite as many. All right. So in order to talk to you about what social permaculture is, I have to talk to you a little bit about what it means to be social. So we've been talking about this. To be social, it's to recognize relationship with all beings. This is sort of my take on it from experiences I've had working with elders. So to be social, it's talking about different spheres of having relationships. So one of them can be within yourself. That's the intrapersonal. So the parts of myself of being social with myself, they're talking to themselves. I've got my conscious, my unconscious. Got a lot going on in here. That's our internal world, so being social that way. And we can also be social with each other, social with our romantic partners, with our best friends, with our families, social with our community, social with the world, and then social with all beings. The rock people, the tree people, the wind spirits, the montagna, the mountain, all beings. And so permaculture tends to focus on the biophysical realm, but my take on social permaculture, and maybe even all permaculture, is that it's all social, because these are all beings that we're being social with. So that's what I mean to be social. And the basic definition for permaculture, Permaculture 101, I had to even double check it just to make sure I was getting it across right for you guys. Permaculture is a system of design patterned after nature, somewhat drawing from indigenous wisdom and paradigm worldview for helping support people living optimally with their natural environment. Okay, so a system of design to help people live optimally with their natural environment. No waste, abundance of food, lots of biodiversity, lots of species. That's permaculture. People usually apply permaculture to the garden space, to farming space, but actually it can be a lot bigger than that. It can be this giant kind of umbrella philosophy that you can apply to everything. And social permaculture is one application of that. So that is kind of my take is this: instead of just applying it to the biophysical systems, we're applying the system of design. The system of a design has 12 principles, things like observe and interact, use edges, value diversity, capture and store energy. There's 12 principles associated with it, and then there's 3 ethics. So I'm not like this. And there's 3 ethics. The ethics are people care, earth care, fair share, and that's just looking at making sure that we have equity for our beings and the people. And so that's the concept of permaculture itself. And then let's apply that to social systems. So the economic system, communications, governance, decision-making, the political system. So that's what I mean by social systems. And the one thing that my particular definition does that's a little bit different, or I guess you could say vastly different than what Bill Mollison would have said, who's one of the people that brought this here to the United States, is I like to introduce the concept of walking with the sacred. And I don't want to say turn over in his grave, but he would probably be very unhappy with that, because permaculture, when it first came to the US, was very much still following a patriarchal lineage of colonizing in its own way, because what Bill Mollison did was he took these universal archetypes, many of which he observed with indigenous people using, and sort of cleaned it from the actual culture that it was associated with, and drew out these principles, and he wanted to get rid of everything that was spiritual at all. That was really important to him. And he's gone now, and we're kind of at a crossroads, sort of a new generation of people who are picking this up now. And so for my definition of permaculture also includes walking with the sacred, includes honoring and cherishing. So what I like to say, it's a system of design that helps support self, others, and all beings to live in harmonious relationship, or right relationship, or alignment, however you want to call it, with each other. So it's actually really, really broad in that sense. But there's a few things that we can look at for how to approach it. I think I have to add, just because my Auntie Hazel's adamant about this, in permaculture, people talk about permaculture design. That's a really big buzzword. And she really doesn't like it, so I just need to make sure that I include that. I have another teacher, Pandora Thomas. She loves saying the word design. She feels like it's empowering. Another perspective on it is that permaculture design, or the word design, has a capitalistic element to it and a little bit of lack of humility. It's sort of saying like, oh, we can design, instead of listening to what wants to come forth. But I need to put that. I needed to be able to offer both of that for you. So permaculture design, maybe a little contentious. So you've heard social permaculture. So a system of design specifically applied to social systems. Self, others, all beings, living in harmonious relationship, living in right relationship. How does that affect, or how does that connect to climate change? That's our big topic. And there's a lot of ways that we could take this conversation, but the one I wanted to offer you is to start thinking about our relationship with the environment, with the world, as a relationship with a living being. I'm going to say this a lot, like over and over again, in many different ways, because I think it takes a little while for it to click in for people. So let's think about our relationship to the mother, to Pachamama, to the earth, as a living being. And when you're working with a being, a friend, a partner, a lover, a family member, everybody has boundaries. Everybody has pieces that we watch out for and that we need to tend and take care of. And there's a really excellent concept put out by Johan and Stephen in 2009 called Planetary Boundaries. And how many people have heard of that or heard this paper, Planetary Boundaries? Okay, awesome. Yeah, I actually really, really like this. So he lists out 10 different areas that we should be aware of when we're thinking about working with the environment, when we're working with the earth as a whole system being. And that each being has boundaries. Each being has areas that we need to respect and honor. And so there's 10. One of them, I'll just go through them. Chemical pollution, particle pollution, biodiversity loss, right? So our kin, our spirit beings, deforestation, fresh water, phosphorus cycle, nitrogen cycle, ozone depletion, ocean acidification, and of course, carbon and the climate crisis. So there's 10 sort of areas, boundaries that we need to be mindful of, that we need to tend and watch for. One of them being the climate crisis and carbon. And there's so much interplay between all of these things, but I really appreciate this because he's giving us a place to start and language of boundaries, and we can start to think about how do we approach at a systems level our relationship with the mother. So Johan Rockström and Will Steffen, 2009, and I can give you guys any of these references after. I would be remiss to not also talk a little bit about the connection between climate change and climate justice when talking about social permaculture. So I won't talk too much about it, but because Pandora Thomas and Starhawk already do a really, really good job, lead a fantastic training called Earth Activism Training. Would definitely look into that if you're interested in mentoring on the front lines of this. Earth Activism Training, Pandora Thomas and Starhawk. But what we're talking about with social justice, climate justice and social justice go hand in hand. We're talking about unequal distribution of benefits and negatives, or positives and goods and bads. That's how it was really simply explained to me. And with climate change, what we're experiencing are different areas where people are having a really, really hard time, and there's a disproportionate experience for people who are marginalized or underprivileged. And so this is the connection between climate change and social justice, and it's present and it's real, and there are really good resources on it. But today's talk, I want to talk more about this higher level idea, this broader concept of just connecting to all beings. So the big thing that we're facing is that we're living out of balance. We're living in a way where our brains and our hearts are colonized, are domesticated, are not wild, and we don't know how to walk anymore, and we don't know how to think anymore, and we don't know how to be in relationship in a way that's natural, that's like breathing. And when we do that, when we're in relationship in a way that's natural and like breathing, you don't have to think of the 10 million things that you're trying to do to lessen your ecological footprint, because you are already honoring your brothers and sisters. You know that the energy that you're sourcing is coming from hydro, that's connecting to the water, that's connecting to the salmon. And you know that because you're tracing it back to your brothers and your sisters. So living in that way simplifies this mental task of trying to track all these different things. So what can we do? There's a couple different solutions when we're talking about human behavior change. So I'm going to offer that there's 4 main pathways when we're talking about behavior change. There's the economic pathway, there's the technological pathway, there's the values pathway, and then there's the political pathway. So there's 4 areas: economic, technology, political, values, or deep culture change. So these are things that we can do, these are areas that we can focus on. But for every area that we focus on, I also want to offer one more set of variables. So I just offered you 4, I'm going to offer you 3 more. Every solution that we offer, that we work with in any of those 4 areas, it's not just going to be a, boom, we're there. There's phases. And sometimes people get caught up in arguing this solution is better, that solution is better, right or wrong. What I want to offer is there's 3 phases. So one is the quick fix. We have to stop the bleeding now. We have to address the problems now. The second solution, or the second phase rather, is retrofit. Working with old systems to try to shift them into something better in the process, and knowing that that's not actually the ultimate solution of where we're going. And the last one would be the ultimate solution. And humans evolve and change, but maybe we can imagine what it could possibly be like to live in relationship with all beings, where our industrial complexes and the things that we produce don't feel that way because they're right in our backyard, and they're from a space of cherishing and honoring, so that when we produce things, we know what tree they came from. It's not an industrial extractive model, and that's what we're so used to. So again, going back to the 4 areas. So we have 4 areas, 3 phases: quick fix, retrofit, ultimate. These are phases of solution. 4 areas. The economic area. Charles Eisenstein has written a lot on gift economy, gift culture. And that's a great model for the economic space. People are doing things with incentivization, right? You can buy carbon credits and all of that. But I really think moving in a direction or shifting our entire economic system towards something called gift culture is closer to the ultimate solution. But I don't want to say one thing's not right. Again, quick fix, retrofit, ultimate. So when we're looking at options, I guess coming to it from a space of honoring everybody just trying to do something, anything. So Charles Eisenstein, gift economy, gift culture. Robin Wall Kimmerer, beautiful book called Braiding Sweetgrass. She talks about this as well. Not in the same way, I actually like the way she talks about it better. She helps write a little bit about our connection to all beings and how it's not a scarcity mindset or an abundance mindset necessarily. When you're thinking about living with someone you love and they offer you a gift, there's not, well, hopefully, when we're living in balance with ourselves and we've done the internal work, we're not trying to hoard that gift or get more of it. We're actually just so grateful. We're grateful that we were given a gift by someone we love. And that's kind of the mindset, that's the idea. The technology, there's technological fixes that we can focus on. Green technology, again, in the interim, maybe looking at alternatives to carbon. But again, my heart is definitely more towards the retrofits. If you look me up, you'll look at, and I don't know if Jyokitin knows it. If you look me up, you'll see that my dissertation was on biofuels and studying social attitude towards looking at a transition fuel as a temporary. But again, comes with trade-offs, big trade-offs. The political system, we can make change, looking at candidates, looking at policies, taking action, like going and walking with Jyokitin, direct action. These are things that we can do to shift policies today, so that's another pathway. And then again, the fourth one, values change, culture. That's looking at how do we rewild our hearts and minds? How do you do that with yourself? And so I'm offering these kind of 4 pathways for change. These are 4 pathways that you can approach in your own life. And then 3 different types of solutions. You can figure out what kind of person you are. And I'm trying to kind of offer this as solutions for you to start thinking about you and your unique gift. Your expression. What is your expression for helping be part of this journey, part of this cause, part of the collective remembering? What is your path? We need them all. We have work to do, and there's a role for each one of you. Yeah, okay, I've got some homework for you. So, homework for you. Homework number 1. I was in school for a long time. Homework number 1. The homework of remembering. So we're part of this collective remembering. I guess I'm asking you for your homework for this assignment to go find elders, go find mentors, go apprentice, go be with nature, go sit under a tree, remember, find pathways to remember, writings and readings, listen to the songs and stories of the first people, our teachers who are holding this bundle. That's the first homework. And if you need any tips on that, talk to me. I know a lot about elders, I guess. The second homework is, oh boy, yep. It's the homework of grief, trauma, and ancestral healing. Okay, so homework number 2. Do the work. That one's, yeah, so I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But grief, trauma, ancestral healing, what is your process? What is your practice? Find your practice. Find your practice, whatever that looks like. There's a lot of different grief circles that are happening, song circles, Lawrence Cole, Sweat Lodge, whatever it is. What is your practice to grieve? To grieve the loss of the beautiful rainbow trout in the stream, so thick that you could walk upon it. To grieve the loss of wildness, the biodiversity loss on our planet. What is your practice? There's a lot of grief out there, so if you're not doing it, it means you're disassociating from it, or you're numb, or it's so overwhelming that it makes you sick even to think about it. And so having a practice is good, so find a practice. That's your homework. And, oh, the third one. Your homework is to find another practice to calm your nervous system, okay? This is a lot of work. Homework number 3, find a self-care practice. If you don't have one, find one. There's lots of things you can do. So Tai Chi, long breaths, there's beautiful trauma-informed yoga these days. There's a lot of options for you. Again, song circles are beautiful. Food with community. Find some sort of self-care practice. Journaling, what is your practice? What do you do to nourish yourself, support yourself on this path? And then, of course, the best, most nourishing thing of all, get into nature, get outside, lie on the land, be by the river, listen, nourish. And then the fourth homework, it's not really homework, it's more like the practice, it's take action. Find your space to contribute. Find your unique voice. Find your way to help. Go on this walk. Support, 350.org. Support organizations like Chokotans. Find your cause. Find your way of contributing. Oh, and I did want to give some shouts out. A few specific things this coming weekend for Equinox. Yes, you can go on this walk. If for some reason you can't get down there, it's the International Council of 13 Indigenous Grandmothers is holding a worldwide prayer for peace, for people to come back into the One World Tree the weekend of the Equinox as well. So that's something you can join online. It's called Lift the Earth. Lift the Earth. International Council, 13 Indigenous Grandmothers. So as we move on this journey, think about your homework. Think about these 4 different spheres that you can act in. Remember that there's 3 different kinds of solutions. It's not just one. And I want to kind of end with some actual direct words from some of the elders that I've heard with. Right now, in Hawaii, I have family in Hawaii, so I go out there. In Hawaii, they would begin today to celebrate the full moon. They celebrate the full moon for 4 moons. Tomorrow here is when people mostly start to celebrate it. And what it is, this moon, living by the earth rhythms, many traditions, many people, many teachings. The one that Grandmother Karina has taught me is actually coming from the Mayan tradition. And she's telling me about the moon, the lunar scorpion moon. This is a moon of polarity, of how beautiful and amazing life is, this gift, and how incredible it is. And then the contrast of the despair and the grief of how sad it is that we're losing it. Polarities, right, wrong, good, bad. Grandmother Karina speaks this for us. My heart is also aware of the dance of polarities, in which our wounded infants and wounded children participate. My heart hurts when I observe the good, the bad, the right, the wrong, the either, the or, the if you don't, then I won't. The game of incessant violence escalates into gender wars, into regional imbalances, into deforestation and erosion, genocide, bullies in the schoolyard, violence in the classroom, ignorance of mothers in the kitchen with choices of preserved foods, GMO foods, and fertilizers in the front lawns of our lives. This is life out of balance. Life not in a cherishing relationship, in an honoring way. Women are the recovering movement, recovering from generations of having resigned our fates to the hands of fathers, husbands, brothers, uncles, grandfathers, men who were all birthed through the vaginas of mothers. It is a challenging moon, beloveds, to step into the mantra of this I agreed to participate in this lifetime. I agreed to be responsible for my part of this genocide, this dehumanization, this deforestation. I made this agreement, and I am capable of turning that relationship around. As we embark on this journey, watch for the complaining and the blaming and the shaming that can come in when we polarize in other people in our quest to find belongingness, to find a group that we can be part of, a cause that makes us feel whole, when we can strive to feel whole within ourselves, just by being with the river, being with the woods, so that we're not putting this cycle, the cycle continues of traumatizing each other by othering. This cycle is institutionalized racism, institutionalization of different systems of oppression, cultural norms of othering, cultural norms of not seeing each other. When the grandmothers and our elders are telling us the prophecy is to come back together as one into the one world tree. So just watch out for that, the shaming, blaming, complaining. Begin to watch yourself as you move forward in this journey. I guess that could be extra credit homework. The last thing grandmother says here is, as you then enter this threshold, as we do this work, invite you to say, yes, I love being responsible. I enjoy this time of generativity, of co-creative energies on earth. I am willing to be the one I have been waiting for. And when we do that work again, finding connection, so many of us feel alone, feel sad, feel despair for losing that connection, losing our relationships with our kin. Robin Wall Kimmerer, who I just mentioned, she wrote the book Braiding Sweetgrass. Braiding Sweetgrass, if you haven't read it, read it. She says, philosophers call this state of isolation and disconnection species loneliness, a deep, unnamed sadness stemming from estrangement from the rest of creation, from the loss of relationship. As our human dominance of the world has grown, we have become more isolated, more lonely when we can no longer call on our neighbors. Then she offers us this. Know the ways of the ones who take care of you, so that you may take care of them. Introduce yourself. Be social. Be accountable as the one who comes asking for life. Ask permission for taking. Never take first, never take last. Take only what you need. Take only that which is given. Use it respectfully. Never waste what you have taken. Share. Give thanks for what you've been given. Give a gift in reciprocity for what you have taken. Sustain the ones who sustain you, and the earth will last forever. So again, as you're doing this work, how can we have reciprocity? How can we give back? How can we give gratitude and prayer and thanks? And then on the piece of doing your homework for the grief piece, Joanna Macy writes this. Joanna Macy writes that we can grieve for our planet if we can't grieve for our planet. If we can't grieve, we cannot love it. Grieving is a sign of health, but it is not enough to weep for our landscapes. We have to put our hands in the earth and make ourselves whole again. Even a wounded world is feeding us. Even a wounded world holds us, giving us moments of wonder and joy. And she's speaking again to the grief of the planet, but this also applies for the grief of our ancestors and for people. This grief. It's so important to grieve, but it's not enough. There's work to do. And again, there's a role for each one of you. Practical advice on this path from Grandmother Karina. End the cycle of denial. End the cycle of denial. It's so easy to not look at this because it's so big, it's terrifying. So end the cycle of denial, and then as we do that, then we need to detox. Again, we don't remember how to walk. What is in your hair product right now? What is on your skin? What's in your body? Do you know what beings gave their lives for you to, have your skin be healthy? So we need to detox and then come into decolonization as the next piece and come into relationship as we live in the world. After this, we have purification, coming with a pure heart. This is doing a lot of work first, then come to purification and coming into a space without hate, where we release the shame, the blame, the complaining, We do that homework, we do that self-work. And then she says, retrieval of the soul. That one might be a big order. Another way to think about that is, again, coming into your life purpose, your unique gift, your way to move in the world. There's a lot more to that one, but for now we can just go with your unique gift. Then we need to integrate all of those pieces, and then again come into the last piece would be coming into a divine alignment, coming back into the sacred, connecting to Creator, being the last piece. And I have to do full disclosure here and call myself out. Grandmother says that my cheetah spirit likes to move quickly and hop past some of these first steps and not do the grief work and not do the shadow work and go right into the last part. So full disclosure, we're all on our own paths with that, but there is a path and there are practices and there's people who can help us. How do we come back from this? How do we decolonize hearts and minds? How do we free the domestication of our wild spirit? How do we do this with humility, with honor, and with gratitude for the great mystery? And keep this una embraza, keep one embrace at the same time. It's really common in permaculture to focus on the words, and not just permaculture, in a broader culture now, to focus on the action of dismantle and disrupt systems of oppression, patriarchy, colonization, racism, dismantle and disrupt. And I think that this is really, really powerful and really important. For me, I think that is the quick fix. I think that is just the beginning. It's stopping the bleeding. It's meeting where we're at, and we need to do this. And I want to offer a question for you, because this is something I'm still working with. What's the next step? What's the verb? If it's not dismantle, disrupt, what other thing do we put in there? And that might be the retrofit. That might be the ultimate fit. I'm not sure. The one thing that did come to me, though, and I'm a big Bruce Lee fan, is to be like water. Be like water. And everyone may have their own answer for this, what that verb is, what that next step is. Maybe it's be like fire. I'm not sure. But for me, it's be like water. So I have his quote on that just for fun. You must be shapeless, formless like water. When you pour water into a cup, it becomes the cup. When you pour water in a bottle, it becomes the bottle. When you pour water in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. And and water can drip, and water can crash. He says, be like water, my friend. So I want to end just with some of these words to kind of recap what we've talked about a little bit. You guys have a big assignment, have a lot of homework. There are a lot of options, a lot of pathways for each one of you. So the ending piece is just to say, find your way to contribute. Find your unique gift. What inspires you? What opens your heart? What drives you? There are so many ways to be part of this. So that's the first one, is find your path. How will you contribute? Be like water. Flow. Be with strength like the waves and ride the waves. Be like water. Auntie Hazel says, and don't despair. Pay attention. Don't despair. Start paying attention. Listen. Permaculture principle number 1 or 2. Observe and interact. But I would say listen. Listen for what wants to be done. Listen for relationship. Listen for how that you can be in the world. And grieving is a gift. Grieving is a gift for yourself, it's a gift for your ancestors, and it's a gift for those who come after you, so that we can clear our wombs, we can clear our genomes, and we don't pass it on to the next generation. But it's not enough. We have work to do. And then the last one's, remember why you came here. Remember why you came here. And remember that all life is sacred. Ahe. Thank you.